Hello, Helena, and welcome to the Make Life Rich Movement podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. It's my first time ever doing a podcast, and I have a microphone.
I
So
love it.
I'm
Oh my
very
gosh,
prepared. I
I
think
love it.
everyone's like, oh, you're an artist, you're a musician, so you're just like very type B. And I'm like, no, like, not type B at all. So
Type A to a T,
I
I
get
can tell.
stuff done. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Guys, we are in for such a treat today. I fell in love with this multidisciplinary artist about, I'll say probably 8 months ago or so. I came across your content on Instagram and I was immediately captivated. You teach music, you teach fine art. You are also a fine artist and a performer. And I just love the way in which you go about creating art and kind of your musings on life while you're doing it. And I thought we would have such a fun conversation today. So thank you so much for coming on. It means a lot. It's going to be so fun.
Thanks for having me.
So, the first thing that I would love to bring attention to, which I'm sure you're all very aware of at the moment, the meaning of your name. It's so beautiful and so fitting to your entire personality and kind of what I think, like in my opinion, your art brings forward and the act of you creating the art, which I never really thought about being art, but it is also art, the way that you go about it, which I love so much.
Thanks.
The meaning of your name means playful shining light, which is just so beautiful and so like fitting and makes so much sense. Could you tell me a little bit about your background, your parents, and kind of your first memories of music and art being a part of your lives?
Yeah. I feel like everything is owed to my parents. Like they are freaking awesome. But my dad is Cypriot, but he was born and raised in Johannesburg in South Africa during the apartheid, which was a really rough time.
Wow.
I don't know my math, the 70s. But he was
Yeah.
18 and his dad died when he was 14, and I
Oh,
think that brought a lot of just kind of clarity to like what am I here on this planet to do? Like his dad had worked his whole life like so hard to like send my dad and his siblings to like the best private school in Johannesburg or in wherever he was, and then he died when he was like only in his 50s, and I think it was like, oh, like I'm going to work for the rest of my life, so like I need to enjoy it because you might not have a retirement, like you might not have any time afterwards at all. So he got really into yoga, became obsessed with the sitar, went to India, like just didn't work, like just played sitar for hours a day, did yoga, and was pretty much like a hippie bum living in India. And my mom, she is from like she's born in I think Ontario, somewhere in Canada, grew up a little bit there, but then came to Lancaster. She went to India to study Sanskrit and Indian vocal singing. So she sings like traditional Indian music. And she met my dad in Benares. Someone was like, oh, you should meet. There's like another Westerner, over here. And actually, when she went to meet him, she realized that she had hit him on a bike like a couple weeks before. Like she had like hit him on the bike. And then I think it was just like a very fast, like, oh, like watch where you're going.
wow.
Anyways, they like immediately hit it off because they're both really into music and traveled. Like they went to Manali in northern India, and then like after 4 months she was pregnant with me, and it was like, I guess we're gonna do this. And my dad had like no money, no savings, no anything. He really didn't want to come to the States. I think he would have been very happy to just be like a hippie family in India and just like really rough it. But my mom was much more like, no, we need to like have some stability. Came back to Pennsylvania, and that's where I grew up. But and I was born in India, and I think for like the first 6 months that they were there. But yeah, and then pretty much every summer we would go back to India, and then when I was 6, my brother was born, and my parents would continue their research. So my mom actually has her PhD in ethnomusicology, but she doesn't want to teach in a college because she is an ESL teacher with like elementary kids, and she loves it. So I think my dad has definitely, they're both really hard workers, and they're very passionate about leading their lives the way that they see fit. But also, my mom is much more of the, she's a little bit more, like wants more stability, and maybe that's the Taurus in her, whereas my dad is like still the dreamer that's like, I don't work for anybody, like I do what I want to do. And I think growing up, as I was like in my early 20s, it was like, well, like which side do I have to choose? And it's kind of like, well, you just have to be you. And my degree's in fine art and art education, and I taught in public schools for like a year or two, and I love the students, but I just cannot be told. Like I have an issue with authority. Like I just have to run my own business, and I got to do it my own way. And with that comes a lot of other things. But then I then don't have to answer to anybody, and I'm really organized. So yeah, both my parents are probably my greatest inspirations in life, and they just taught me so much. And I'm really grateful that they nurtured all of the creative aspects. Like it was just a very artful life. It wasn't like, oh, you're an artsy kid, or oh, you're a musical kid. But I started violin when I was 4, and I loved it. But around like middle school, high school, I just really started to dislike classical music. I didn't
Mhm.
really like my teachers. I just didn't have like very many nice teachers. Like they're just
Yeah.
very all business. So how I teach, the focus is really on sharing a lot of life lessons and like the growth mindset. So, it's not just about music and art, but I teach music full time. That's like actually my job. And I don't really share that much on Instagram because it's kind of nice to keep that part of my life separate.
It's
So,
beautiful.
yeah.
It makes me wonder in hearing that you, first of all, your parents were fated, which is so beautiful and such a cool thing as a child to have as like your example, which is really neat. And I think I also, my parents were also similarly very much like star-crossed lovers. They were married for 36 years before my dad passed, but it is cool to grow up in an environment where love kind of dictates the way you live your life, and love always leads to fun and to play and to experiences. And it is a really cool thing that I think some people may not expect someone could live their entire life that way, but it is truly a mindset, and just the way in which you help your child to view the world, which I
Mhm.
can only imagine has influenced your art, especially being an infant in India, one of the most colorful places in the world, and just seeing all the shapes and colors and hearing all the noises. And I'm sure that was just like something that programmed your little infant brain from the gate. And then now being in Pennsylvania surrounded by nature, it's like it seems like you've always kind of been in a place that really nurtured that inner artist within you to just kind of allow that to be your environment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. I feel like I don't know if you read about my 20s and that I was like in LA and I was signed to Warner Brothers. Yeah, so like that, I think the common thread is that, and as because I forgot what I was going to say and then I or just remembered, but like growing up, going to India when I was 4, we lived there for a year, and then just being exposed to like extreme poverty, like because we didn't like stay in nice hotels, like we slept in places that had like dirt floors sometimes, like it was very rustic, because my parents were very frugal, but also I think that I don't know if it was an intentional thing, but like from a really young age, I realized like how wealthy we were, and we were very lower middle class, but it was like we have a house, like we have like food, like we can
Hmm.
afford, and we didn't really do much fun stuff during the year, like we didn't like I just like we didn't go shopping very much, like my parents saved all their money so we could go on these trips every summer to India. But it was really tough for me growing up because I grew up in a very small rural town in southern York County, and I never fit in. I wasn't like seriously bullied, I think, because I was always like, this is just, I don't know if I can curse on here, but this is just
No, you can curse.
this is
Yeah.
just bullshit. Like I'm
Yeah.
so ready to get out of here. But yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, the things you guys are complaining about, like it's like it's not that it's not valid, but it's like it is all so relative, and it's just like the really important things in life, and gratitude is probably the most important thing. Like, maybe it sounds morbid, but I think about death almost every day. That's like,
Mhm.
what am I here to do? Am I living the way that I want to live? Like, when
Mhm.
we think about, and your podcast is the Make Life Rich podcast, like I really don't feel like, for how evolved we are, we still seem stuck in this like I just got to get here so then I can make more money. And it's like, do you need to make extra money, or do you want to actually have more free time to enjoy your life? Because like you can't take it with you. Like you can't take
Mm-hmm.
any of this with you, but you can take a life full of experiences and, like connections, relationships, like just constantly coming back every day to like, what am I here to do? And am I
Mm-hmm.
doing it? And not complaining and not like, having a victim mentality about a lot of things too. I feel like there's just a lot of like apathy that I notice. That I'm like, I know, but like if you want that, you're gonna have to hustle. Like you're gonna have to work, and maybe part of you doesn't want to, and that's okay too. But
Mm-hmm.
it really doesn't help that then also, especially on social media, there's just constantly this like we just see the iceberg, and I see it with my students. Like, "Ugh, I'm just not good at this song." And I'm like, you started this song literally a minute ago. You're gonna suck. It's okay. Like, you're gonna just
Mm-hmm.
fail. And I saw something like a month or two ago, and someone was giving some advice, and they're like, fail faster. And I was like, I love that so much, because like
Mm-hmm.
if the goal isn't to have it, it's just it's not where we're ending. It's how are you embracing the process? And if you can get just completely ravenous for just like trying and trying and trying, and that's what your goal is, then like you're gonna have so much more of a beautiful thing to show at the end of it, but like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just like because we can just order something on Amazon, and we can just do things so instantaneously now. We've lost the ability to like be okay with the mundane too. Like, there's all these like cottage core this, and like, look at me, like I have an apron on and I'm with my kids, and it's like, but we know that that's one thing, and that's beautiful. What I'm sharing on Instagram, that's like the like part of me that's tapping into the part of myself that like I would love to be all the time, but I also appreciate that like there's so many facets to who we are. We're not just like one label. Okay, I'm an artist. Like, oh, I'm a teacher. I'm bohemian. Like I whatever. It doesn't matter, but we're all yeah, I just feel like we're caught up in labels so much now, because you kind of have to, but then also to remember to break out of that and be like,
Mm-hmm.
we do realize that it is we're so multifaceted, and that you know yeah, the like the slow life, I guess what I'm trying to say is the best things we're usually not recording,
Yeah.
like
No.
I could go on and on, but like
No,
it's like
I love where you're going with this, and I think I want to pull out a few things that you said because it is perspective is everything, and I think the way that you frame something is really relative to the experience of what your reality is going to feel like. And saying you think about death every day, I kind of was forced to feel and think and grow up that way because my father was given 30 days to live when I was 12, but then lived another 20 years. Very unhealthy, very sick, had cancer, it was, the whole thing. But it did force me to recognize that every day is a gift. Like, not only may I wake up and he may be like dead in his bed that next day as a child, but like I may not wake up. And that was never really something that I think you could have said to you. It had to be an experience, I think, that really sealed in for you the gratitude of like, I woke up today, I can breathe, there's food for me to eat, I have water to drink, there's no storms over my head that are gonna like ruin my crops and our food for the next like season. Like there's just so many things we don't know to be grateful for because we haven't experienced them. And I think the cool part of Instagram that I wish more people, especially younger people, would utilize as a tool for is just getting to see the absolute insane amount of global poverty, suffering that exists, and then it will truly make the hardest parts of your life so trivial except for the big ones, like your loved ones aren't well, your parents just lost their job, and like you're concerned for how you're going to exist. Like there are problems that we should give time and attention to and worrying about, but I do feel like social media instead is going in a different direction, and people are worried about the frivolous things. Like when you're on your deathbed, you are not going to give a shit about how many bags you have in your closet. You're not going to care about how many expensive dinners you went on. You're not going to care if you got to like buy that next version of your car and like upgrade your lease again. You're going to be on your deathbed worrying about all the moments you could have made with those you cared about, all the time you could have spent with yourself to get to know yourself more. And I love that your work innately taps into those things. And we'll talk about the work of your social media content because I love so much that I had to kind of like dig when I first came across your post. I'm like, well, she's painting clearly, but what is she painting? You never showed
Yeah.
it. And then I was like, aha, that's the point of this reel. She wants to show what's leading to her making this piece of artwork. So maybe it was you worrying about your value and like, what is my worth? And as you said, you were painting in college, but for a grade. Now
Mhm.
you're in this time and place painting for you, and what value does that artwork have on your life, and what value does your life have on that work? Like, it was beautiful to see you kind of peeling back and like taking people back a few steps. Like, you, if you want to see it, go to my website. That's not what this is about. What this is about is why I sat down today to make this piece or to get back to working on this piece. Could you go into that a little bit? Because
Yeah.
I think people are very excited and almost turned on by the vulnerability of what you're talking about,
Mhm.
especially as someone that they have watched go viral and grow.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting because it really is full circle. Like I didn't realize how much life lessons I'm offering to my students in my violin lessons until I taught for years and it was like, oh, like it's not just about this is a song we're learning and we're doing this exercise. And when I first started sharing like every single day, I was taking like videos and videos of like this angle of my art and like this and I was like this is actually defeating the whole purpose of making the art. Yes, I'm churning out a lot more art, but I'm not having any fun. Like this is work and I'm doing it for free. And people are not even that interested because it's really tough because I don't know, it feels like a lot of the art that actually sells is like really just cool abstract art, which I have a lot of fun making. But
Mhm.
the thing that I like making the most will always be portraits, and people don't really want to buy portraits of random people, which is totally fine. It's not even the art that I put up in my own house most of the time.
Mhm.
But so I was just like, I don't want to keep doing like this. Like, I actually really like the commitment of showing up every day, but like, like having to film every angle and then like, I'm like, I can't even get into a flow state. And you would never
Mhm.
tell a musician when they're composing, all right, let me get a video of you working on those three notes. Like the stop, go is so unnatural and it's just killing it. I know some
Mhm.
people love it and they have their system awesome for them, but like I'm a very like try something out, pivot, try something out. Like I'm very hands on. And the moment that I'm like, ooh, I don't like that, like I'm very decisive.
Mhm.
So the one video that I posted in my studio was just like me walking. And then I did, like I shared some musings and I was like, oh, people want to see that. Okay, well, I'll keep doing that and I'll keep doing that. And then a couple more videos went viral for whatever freaking reason. And I know that people are like, oh, you should just be grateful. I'm like, I know, but like, I like to figure things out. And most of the time in life, I can figure out things, but the algorithm does not make any sense to me. And I thought that I figured it out because I was like, I use the trending audio, I use the words on the screen, I post at the same time. Like, I like have it and then I think it was like January, February, I was like, I feel like I'm losing followers, but I haven't changed anything. And like, well, maybe people are just getting bored. Like, maybe like I'm just not. And I was just like, well, it's just really curious. Like, I didn't get really emotional because I was just kind of like, I know that it is supposed to be like an addictive thing, and I have really strong boundaries around it. But I was like, this is so weird. Like, I'm losing followers and I feel like I've plateaued. I was like, maybe that's what happens. Maybe you like plateau. Because when you're growing and it's just snowballing, like I can see it with
Mhm.
the video. Oh, the video's doing well. Okay, like 2 weeks later, like, oh, the snowball. And then like a month later, it's like, it's still snowballing. I just posted it. Oh, and then that's bringing in more followers. I don't know if the followers are coming in for like the right reason, but it's not my business. Like I'm just doing me and whatever it happens. I haven't gotten any money from having more followers, so I really don't give a shit. But
Mhm.
yeah, and then in the last and then I had a video go viral where I was just talking about like like I really feel like more people just need to be like, this is a bunch of nonsense though. Like we do know like this isn't real life. And of course the algorithm is like rigged. Of course it is. Like I don't know how it is, but I just know that like they don't benefit from us not needing it. 100%. Like, you
Hmm.
know, and I was like, then I was thinking, I was like, oh, maybe I should start posting more of my fine art because like I really do wish that maybe I could like, it's not even about making money because I make really good money doing what I do with my own business, teaching violin and music. Like, and I'm totally fine with that. But it's like, well, it'd be nice if someone like wanted a piece of my art in their house. Like that'd be really sweet because I have so much of it. But then I realized that like I'm just not satisfied with just sharing my fine art or just sharing my music or just sharing yoga. Like I actually have to have conversations. Like I have to talk about the whole picture because that's what I'm interested in. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in talking about like a watercolor technique for 3 weeks. Like, great. Like, you can go on YouTube and watch a watercolor tutorial. Like, I'm not going to create a course on Canva and then try and
Hmm.
sell it. Like, I just don't have the energy or the desire to, but I do want to have a commentary about my experience using this platform. So, like, I'm actually talking about the platform when I get on the platform. And that feels so good because it's like being a coach, like a football coach or a lacrosse coach. And you're not just talking about all this the little techniques of like, you know, and then you cradle like this and you do that. It's more like what is the long game? Like how do we approach every experience as like a little lesson and then we just put it out into the world and be like, so are you experiencing this too? Because I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't know why people aren't talking about the platform itself, unless it's
Hmm.
as a way to reel in clients to buy your, sorry, like fucking retarded course. Like,
Hmm.
sorry. You know, I mean, go do it. But like, I don't want to see like I had $10,000 last month from my Canva course. Like, I don't know why I see that. Maybe it's because when I scroll, I like pause because it's supposed to hook you, and then you're like, wow, that sounds pretty nice. $10,000. Wait, doing what? Like, I don't want to spend my whole life on my phone. So,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
and if it and it, I feel like unfortunately we're also in this really polarized place where it's like either like use the platform and like make a ton of money and like overnight, or like let's just crap on the platform, you know? It's so this or that. And I also feel like and I could just talk about this forever, but like my husband was like, Helena, it is kind of a troll farm. Because I was like scrolling the other day and this like awesome video of this woman using this like really cool material as like soundproofing for her house. She was like showing how to use it, like almost all the comments like you're not using it right and like oh my god that's a fire hazard and your kids could die and you wouldn't even know, like all this stuff. And I had to post because I'm not like a big commenter like on other people's stuff. Like I just kind of get on and then I kind of, what's it
Hmm.
called, post and ghost. Like I kind of do
Hmm.
that, but I also don't really care. It's whatever I want to do. But I had to make a comment because I was like, this person is sharing a really cool material.
Hmm.
She's obviously using it appropriately. And if you
Hmm.
really have something to say and you're actually curious and you're not just using it as some way to like, I know more than you, and you know, then DM them. Like it doesn't need to be this like I don't
Hmm.
care if you don't like what I'm posting. Like go somewhere else then.
Hmm.
But there's just so much self-righteousness. There's so much pointing and blaming and you should do this and you should care more about that. You should be sharing about this thing going on in the world. And I'm like, you should not tell me what to do. And if you care about it so much, then you share. Like, you
Yeah.
know? And like, it is so triggering because I feel like even the most beautiful, like, relaxing video, like, somehow gets like, and I'm like, and they're not bots. Like, I've
Hmm.
gone to see who they are, and I'm like, you're like a regular person. And I'm like, that is
Hmm.
so unkind. Like, and we talk about world peace, and then we can't even find a way to just be like, you know, I disagree with that, but I'm gonna just keep quiet and
Hmm.
let them figure out. Or I'll send them a
Right.
DM, you know, like out of pure curiosity. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's just it's a very strange place. And
Hmm.
you know, I love being able to share because I am such a loner, when I'm not teaching and I'm not hiking or like traveling, like, you know, we like to travel internationally, like I am a homebody and I have everything I need here. So it's my one way to connect with people like you.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
you know, and I've made some really kindred friends where I'm like, oh my gosh, like one day we will get together. And that is enough. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It's definitely potent. It's a potent place for good and for bad. I had a random reel go viral. It's the only one I've ever had go viral. It's got like 2.6 million views right now. It's ridiculous. It's about horseshoe crabs. It was a video,
Horseshoe crabs.
a horseshoe crab. Yeah, you probably never even heard of it. I live on the Delaware Bay. It's one of two places in this part of the world where they travel to mate, spawn, lay their eggs, and then they go about their business. They're like 445 million years old. They get stuck, flipped upside down. They kind of look like the alien in Alien that would like attach to your face, but they have a shell on the back of them. They're very
Okay.
scary looking. So I made this video to show people like, hey, look guys, if you see these guys flipped upside down to where they're exposed, you can just pick them up and flip them over. They're not going to do anything to you. I like put my hand on it. I'm like, look, nothing. It's not biting me. It's harmless, completely harmless. I have about, I think, 10,000 comments on that thing. More than half of them are pornographic in some nature. They're talking about two of the crabs I flipped were mating, so that became a whole topic that just went into a very scary place fast.
Uh-huh.
Then the other half of the mean comments are people saying that I should not be helping endangered animals because what have they done for me? It's just like you can see everyone's trauma just pouring out with every little letter they click. And that made me realize for me, I do not spend too much time on this platform because of the fact that so many people are using it as a place to unhinge their mental unwellness and their rage and their anger. And there's no real mechanism in place to keep it from happening. I got death threats about touching a crab, like multiple death threats.
Oh
It
my
was
God.
the weirdest thing ever, right? Like who in real life would come to your face and threaten you for touching a crab? No one. But they feel emboldened to live this fake life of their own. It's just a very negative and pessimistic one, which
Or it's
makes
like
it
road rage. Like I'm like, you would never say that, you know? Like you would never
never,
be freaking out at a
never.
person, you
It's
know, like.
so odd. It's
And
so
I
odd.
think, yeah, I mean, it's really nice to like glamorize and idealize like the way that it used to be, you know, like where we were all just in each other's business all the time, you know? Like I'm sure that was super stressful too. Like I love just having peace and calm and like
Mhm.
not having to have my neighbors know everything about me. I got great neighbors, by the way. But yeah, I just think there's a lot more um like just get outside and go for a walk, go make some art, go dance, go make some good food, and like
Mhm.
yeah, don't turn to this thing as you're like get
Mhm.
into your car and like let's get road ragey, you know? Yes, I mean
Yeah.
what was it? Like it's been a long time because I think I just immediately would just block and delete like and I would just laugh, but like I think it was maybe and it was like when the reels go viral somebody was like screenshotting my videos and like putting them in their stories and they're like this woman's a fraud, like she's not even an artist, and I was just like if I was a fraud and I'm not even an artist, then like who cares, like it's my life, it's whatever I want to share. So I think I reported that account, and I've like reported accounts before in the past. Instagram doesn't do anything about it. Like there's no protection because it fuels more views, it fuels more engagement. So Instagram benefits from it. And then I actually think I got something a couple days later from for whoever at Instagram was like, we are not going to take this down, and like this account is like totally legit, and we don't find that it's filling under whatever like harassment or whatever. And I was like, okay,
Mhm.
so if me as a 34-year-old, like very strong, like aware, like you can do whatever you want and I am not going to be hurt by it because I'm a lot stronger than that.
Mhm.
Like I'm not going to give you that power. If
Mhm.
they're not protecting me when I actually literally am like, look at this, like bring it to your attention. What are they
Mhm.
doing for the 13 or 14-year-old kids that are posting like their art or posting their music, and like, yeah, they're 13 or 14, like they haven't been on this planet that long, so maybe their
Hmm.
art and music like isn't fully realized, or like, and they really don't have the self-awareness and the agency to be like, I'm going to report this, and that I'm not even going to give that a second of thought, because I feel sorry for that person. Like, they
Hmm.
must be so miserable because happy people don't have the time to like to
No,
say things like that, to like literally online bully someone. Like, it's just, yeah,
it's weird.
that is what's concerning to me. And I think it's also, we have so many possibilities now. Like, we have so many things we can choose from. Like, and I'm glad a lot of young people feel like, maybe I don't want to go to college. Like, maybe I want to start a business. Like, maybe I want to like kind of find my own way. I fear that then the kids that do that, or anyone that does that, they just like, oh, I'll just start a business and I'll just make, it's like, it's taken me over 10 years to have the clientele I have. And
Hmm.
while I was building that, I was working like really badly paying jobs, or I was like really like doing this and then doing that, like hustling. And I feel like that openness to like getting dirty, like getting your hands dirty, and like just like, getting the experience under your belt. Like, I feel like
Hmm.
that's kind of getting lost too, because we're like, well, if they did it, then I can do it. And it's like, you don't know
Hmm.
how many years they invested to be where
Hmm.
they are now, because they don't really want to talk about that either. And yeah,
Hmm.
it's like, I was talking to my husband the other day, and he's like, Helena, like, everything that you want to share, it's the most unsexy thing, in the sense of like, these types of conversations about like, this is not going to solve your problems. This, you need to figure it out for yourself. Like, you cannot outsource everything. And there's a lot of unsexy truths that no one wants to talk about, and
Hmm.
I'm going to talk about it because I'm fired up.
Yeah. And I think it's fun to expose these moments for what they really are rather than what they're being portrayed as. And I love that you're so connected to teenagers because I fear for them and like the world that they have to grow up in. I'm 39. I didn't have a cell phone until like a cell phone that was doing more than a
I
talk or a
had a
text.
razor. I had a pink razor that I
Right.
collaged
Right. I love them. I
in my
freaking miss
senior
them.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, they were so good. But there was like never a moment within my growing up where I really had much to compare myself to beyond the kids I went to school with. And that kept it an even playing field, you know? Like everyone kind of falls into their role and their place of their uniqueness, and you get a sense of who you are and what you are just sheerly noticing what others are and how they are. But to have such a wide world of opportunity clouding every moment of your being, I think is in my opinion is going to cause kids to have such fear about making any decisions at all that they just jump headfirst into one thing instead of getting like the years of experience like you did with your time in LA. And I would love to talk about that now, but that experience quotient of you saying, like over the time of me building up my career, I had all these different moments and these different bright spots that then, weren't a good fit, or that was the fit for the season I was in. And it was time for me to move on to something else. I feel like no one's really, yeah, I fear younger people aren't getting an adequate picture of what the true journey looks like because of this concept of virality. Like, virality, you guys did not exist before, like, I'll be generous, 2015, maybe. But I think it's interesting to hear it from your perspective because you do really have access to these younger people and you get to hear what they're saying. And as you're teaching them, you're helping them to get some mindset infused in there because anything you're going to learn needs to be based off of a mindset. But
Hmm.
what were those early years like in your career when you were on your own? You were in California working on your music. What I'm assuming you thought at the time was going to be your lifelong path. Like, this
And
is
I
what I'm
didn't
doing
even plan
forever.
that. Like, I've never been like, I'm going to blah, blah, blah. Like, my affirmations since I was like 16 have been like, I will have. I've always just kind of wanted to be a nun, to be honest. Like, I just really envy. And then my dad's like, Helena, because he's like lived at ashrams. He's like, Helena, monks and nuns have just as much drama. Like, there's so much stuff going on. He's like, they're people. Like, people. Like, this is the human experience. Like, you can't escape it. You can't get out of it. Like, you can gain tools and insights so that you can have a more clear personal compass and you can maneuver your ship with more ease, but like the ocean is just going to be rocky sometimes, and that's kind of exciting if you think about it, because why would you want to have it all figured out? Like, might as well just die then. If it's just like,
Yeah.
well, this is it, this is how it's going to be. But yeah, so when I was 18, my parents actually got divorced when I was 18, as I was graduating high school. And I went to boarding school in India when I was like 16 to 17 in my 11th grade year. And that was like, that just really, I was like, but when I came back from my senior year, I was like so ready to be out. Like, my parents were getting divorced, and I was just like, I am, you know, like, I just didn't really fit in. So I think by the time I was in middle school, I was like, that's who I am then. Like, I'm the kid that doesn't fit in. I'm the kid that's like so much cooler than everybody else. Like, I'm so much more colorful and whatever. So I moved out to California totally on a whim because I was visiting my friend, supposed to be for like 2 weeks. It was like a personal graduation gift to myself. And on my second day, we were riding the tram in San Francisco, and I was like, what if I like just didn't go home? Because I was supposed to go to art school in Philly. And I was like, I'm
You
not
are?
going home. Like, I'm just gonna figure it out here. So like on the third or fourth day, like, I already had a job lined up. I was like, I'm not gonna have the rest of my vacation. Like, I'm just gonna move here. And called the art school, Tyler in Philly, and they were like, don't you want to defer? And I was like, no, I'm not going to college. Never going to college. So lived in San Francisco, lived in Santa Cruz, lived in Los Angeles, like all over LA, Topanga. I really miss LA. And I used to busk. When I moved down to LA, I used to play violin on the side of the street. And I made such good money on Abbott Kinney. Some producer was like, oh, do you want to like make, do some violin for like a Bounty paper towel commercial or something? And I was like, yeah, okay. And like, I made some good money from that. And then he's like, do you sing? And I was like, for fun. Like, I mean, I don't think I'm a singer. My mom's the singer. I'm the violinist. And like pretty quickly we like we made a song, which ended up being Sunlight. And then from that, like, I mean, many things happened in between, but it was like about a year later, I had a showcase for Warner Brothers, and I was a signed artist, and I was like, oh my gosh, and everyone else was like, oh my gosh, like, this is such a big deal. And I kind of started getting treated differently, which is kind of funny because it's kind of what happened when I like got more followers on Instagram. Like, ooh, like, you're different now, or like it means something. After I was signed for like maybe 2 years. I made a whole album. We did like a couple little tours. I did some concerts, and they weren't putting out my album because I just thought that like you make the album and then they just like put it out and then like people get to hear it. But it was like, oh no, you gotta like build interest and stuff. Like, I was really young. I was like 20, and I hadn't really put the work in to like really appreciate what I had gotten. People work for years to get signed and then they still don't. And I just kind of like, so I felt really guilty that like I didn't feel like I had really worked for it, but also I wasn't happy because I don't like being told what to do. So it just put me in probably like a very, very early life crisis of like, wait, what do I don't want this. Like, and everyone was like, you're crazy. Like, what do you, like, you're just gonna like leave? Like, you're like, you made this album. Like, you have like this whole world waiting for you. Like, this is an amazing opportunity. And I was like, I don't think I want that. I don't want to be touring, and like, I don't want a crazy lifestyle. Like, I don't want to. I remember someone had said as well that like I needed to take it seriously, and then there was going to be a lot of competition, and that I needed to like prove myself. Basically, I needed to be bigger than who I was, because if you're a professional entertainer, like, you can't really just be okay with like, yeah, this is me. Like, I'm a regular person. Like, you have to actually make other people think that you are kind of like a god. You know, like you're bigger and better, and that's why you know. So I think, yeah, I came back to the East Coast. I was like heartbroken and very confused, and my dad was like, in the oh, now I can't remember. It's the really famous Hindu tale. What is it? Oh my gosh. But Arjuna's in it, the god, and he's facing his family, who he actually has to go into battle to kill because like they're actually all the bad gods or something like that. And my dad's like, this is like that. And you have to, face the thing you don't want to do and do it because it's an amazing, this is like such a life-changing opportunity. And I was like, but I don't want to be on this journey of constantly proving myself to other people. Like, I don't want to be famous. I don't want to constantly be churning out records. I want to be touring. Like, I really don't want people to tell me what I need to look like or how I need to act. Like, you're a product. And I was like, I don't want to do this. So it was like a really dark time, the hardest time in my life for sure. But having experienced that so young and realizing that the things that actually make me happy are a really simple, calm, like pretty private life actually. So what I share on Instagram maybe feels like, oh, she's sharing a lot, but I get to be in control. And yeah, so I started teaching violin, and then I ended up going to college and I met my husband, and this is where we are now.
I love that. Where did you go to school when you did go back to school?
I went to Millersville, which is a
Oh,
local college here. I went for art ed, and I'm not like cut out for college. Like, I'm like a straight A student, but like I cannot sit and just like, yeah, I just don't like being told what to do.
yeah, it's very much a through and through trait of a Taurus. I think it's our best trait actually, because it's what leads you to create and it's what leads you to forge your own path. Because if you don't want to be told what to do, somebody's got to tell you what to do, and that's yourself. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
does really force you to put a lot of focus into thinking on, okay, well, if I'm not a good employee and I don't want to do this or that, what do I want to do? How do I expect to? I can't keep going back to the drawing board all of the time. Like, I do have to find something, stick with it, and make it work. I wonder when you were in this place of starting to feel good about teaching, you were getting, more students under your belt. Was there a moment where you're like, this feels great for my soul, and this also feels great because it is becoming more and more successful? Was there like a moment where you had to really like gut check yourself, like, before I do any more of this, like, is this really what I want to do forever?
No, I think when I first, so the funny thing is that when I came back, I had like severe depression, and I was just like literally the world was black and white. Like all the color was gone. I just felt so lost, and I had never doubted myself like that before. And my dad's like, and I was working like at a secondhand clothing shop, and I was working at like an orchard, like teaching kids how to like pick apples, and it was like the work was really fun because for the first time in a long time I was just like a regular person, right? I didn't have like this whole team of people like being like, yeah, and you should look like that, you should wear those shoes, and we're gonna get you in the studio. Like, it was just like, oh, these are just like regular good people, and like a lot of older people too at the orchard that I was working with. And I was like, wow, like I like those are my role models. Like, I just want to have like land and
Hmm.
pets, and like I want peace. And my dad's like, you should teach violin, and I was like, I don't have a degree to teach violin. Like, I don't like, I've never taught, like, I mean, I had taught some like drum lessons and like gave people lessons in California a couple times, but it wasn't like I am the teacher. It was like, oh, let me just show you some stuff, because
Yeah.
that's just easy. But I was like, I don't know how I would do anything. And my dad's like, you just get one student and just try it out. And I was like, but I'm just so young. Like, I don't look like my teachers were much older. So I was like, who's gonna take me seriously? And like really quickly, I got a few students. And I remember my very first few lessons, like, I can't believe I got paid to do that. Like, I got to connect. I got to like share something I'm passionate about. And it was so fun. And like, if money wasn't an issue, I would do this for free. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, probably not to the extent of what I do now, which is like I have a lot of students, which I'm so grateful for, but teaching was the first time. Every other job, it was always like, but this is just until I blah, 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 and then I'm going to quit, like, as soon as possible.
Mhm.
Teaching was like, oh, I want to do this until I'm like dead. Like, I just feel like I actually am bringing value to the world. I think when
Mhm.
I was with Warner Brothers too, like, I knew I wasn't cut out for it because I would do shows and I would be so exhausted afterwards. Like, I didn't get the energy that a performer does where they're like literally like
Mhm.
feel like they're on drugs. They're just so high and everyone's coming up and they're like, that was an amazing show. Like, you know, when people would come up and tell me like, oh, that was an awesome show, I'd be like, I'm glad you liked it. Like, I'm so tired now. Like, I'm gonna like go sleep. Like, they'd be like, oh, but you need to like socialize with your fans. And I'm like, I feel really bad, but like, I don't want to. Like, I'm not happy. And, you know, I just felt very like up here and like down here because of what I
Mhm.
was meant to be. And as a teacher, it's very like this. Like, I get to learn so much from my students. And I just feel like I bring value. Like, I know what I'm here to do. And I don't want to have kids.
Mhm.
So people are like, oh, you don't like kids. And I'm like, well, I love kids. I work with them every single day. Like, I work with more kids and interact with them in some ways, I feel like even more than a parent does with their own kid. Like, I get to
Mhm.
influence so many. So, yes, I guess I'm an influencer. You
An
know?
influence of the youth.
Yeah. But it's just, it's so meaningful. Like, it feels really good when you're like, I get to be the teacher that I never had. Like, I can
Mhm.
speak up about the things that I feel like other people are afraid to, or they're just, yeah, like, I'm just going to show up in the world the way that, you know, I wish I would see other people showing up, or, you know,
Yeah.
like, I think my little version of myself would be really proud.
I
Like, my
love
little
that.
feisty Helena.
I love that. And it really sounds like it. And I think in a way I mean, since you have worked through this journey and done so just simply out of the Taurus stubbornness of being like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm really good at doing that too. I was like, no, that's not it. I know for sure that's not it. I don't know what is it, but I know that's not it. And I'm not doing that anymore. But
Yeah.
if someone were looking to separate themselves from their work, separate themselves and their work from like the modern day trappings of value. I love your thoughts on work and your value and how they kind of don't need to be together, can be together. Can you talk a little bit about what you would suggest someone do to still feel connected to their work in 2024 with the beast that is that we have to kind of exist digitally?
That's such a big question. Um, I think the first most important thing that comes to mind is that, like, we're all, for the most part, I think, doing our best. We all have to somehow make a living, like, you know, and it's all very nice to be like, oh, I'm just gonna, you know, I'm just, I don't have to have a job that I have to go to or whatever. But like, there is so much like, like pushed against having a 9 to 5 or having like a regular job that's steady income, you know, but also seeing how almost every interaction that you have, especially with people, like if your job involves other people, like just seeing how much good that you can put in by your interactions, like just by smiling, just by genuinely caring. Like, you don't need to become best friends with everyone that you work with, but like, yeah, it's just like I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I just want to not have a 9 to 5, but it's like sometimes when you trade the 9 to 5, then you're trading it in for a 24/7. So like, you have
Hmm.
to work, you have to do something. I mean, maybe some people don't have to do something, but I feel like that would be miserable.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just, it's like it's a big question, but I feel like giving back, because I mean, well, I'm not gonna have kids, so that's a
Hmm.
huge thing too. Is like, I'm not gonna have children.
Hmm.
Maybe we'll adopt one day, but like, so I will be forgotten probably pretty quickly when I die. So I always think about that, and I'm like, but in my 30s, I think back a lot on the times that I had different teachers and how I wish that they would have just been warmer, and I wish that I could have nicer memories of them, or like them being interested in me as a human being. So I know that the love that I give my students and the connections that we have, like that will be passed on in infinite ways, you know?
Mhm.
And that is the most valuable thing in the
Mhm.
world, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so beautiful. So beautifully said. I think it is something big for people to think about, and also something that keeps them kind of trapped, maybe in scenarios where they aren't feeling like it's most authentically aligned with what they want to do. And
Mhm.
feeling stuck in that place, I think, can be a really awful way to have to just move through life. And I think that I was really excited for this conversation with you because you were almost given the keys to the city of your own, like the keys of your own city, in essence, by your parents, who did kind of just lay down the groundwork of you having this independence and this talent and the skill set to pull from, and the mindset they provided you with. It did kind of give you the ability to really just truly make your path and do what you wanted with it. And I am really thankful that you share a lot of the inner workings of how you're feeling about things and how you're thinking about things, because I think more than ever right now, people need to know that there are other options out there. You don't need to slave away to your own business. You don't need to be dedicated to a job you don't like. There are ways to float through life and make things feel more aligned with what you'd like them to. And I just love so much the way that you really beautifully put that out there for everyone. And we didn't even get to your artwork, which I'd love to in a future episode. But guys, click the link in the show notes. She has such beautiful, beautiful works of art. I love the fact that you have meditation tracks with you playing your, like, ugh, I die. I love it so much. It's so
Thank
beautiful,
you.
so smart, so fun and different, and just makes perfect sense for who you are. I love it.
Thank you. I think my final thing would be, that it is all part of the journey and that just finding the balance. Like that's actually the work is finding the balance
Yeah.
because no matter what work you're going to do, there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes with it that you don't want to have to deal with. Or,
Yeah.
like I don't want to be the accountant, administration, organizer, scheduler, secretary, but like that's part of it. And,
Yeah.
I don't really think it has anything to do with like what it is you're actually doing. I think so much of it has to do with your perspective because my favorite job I've ever worked apart from teaching violin was working at that orchard making $9 an hour
I love
because it
that.
just was so fun and the people were
Hmm.
so great and like I was getting to be outside in nature and
Hmm.
it is all a perspective shift. But if
Hmm.
it feels like the environment is just not in alignment with you and it isn't something that you can shift your perspective, like maybe less hours there and slowly start to work. But nothing that's worth anything is like doesn't come with also like the things that we don't enjoy doing. And I feel like that's so important too. Like
Hmm.
there's not one end goal and then when you get there it's all going to be perfect. Like
Never.
it's just the process.
Yeah. It's special and important that you kind of leave everyone with that, because I think they're, until you've really had it kind of like light bulb moment for yourself to where you're like, oh, it's not about what's happening today. It's about the today I learned how to make what happened be a little bit easier to process. And then
Mhm.
tomorrow, maybe tomorrow's a great day, but like the day after that, there could be something that sideswipes you and you need to navigating and figuring out how to pivot, work on your mindset, all of that, just things I love talking about on the show. And I knew that you would just pack such a punch. But I have a final question for you that I ask all of my guests.
Uh-huh.
How do you make your life rich?
How do I like? Well, I'm gonna just bring my little cat up here for a second. Maxie, come here.
Yay.
Oh, come here,
She
Maxie.
ran.
How do I make my life rich? I would say with the simple things. He's been like
Yes.
walking around this whole time, so I was just like, I
It's
have
like,
to. He's
hi.
like, I don't
Hi,
like this.
Josie. Oh my God, so
I
beautiful.
think with just like a lot of presence with every moment, that is when you realize that you already have made it because every moment is probably the most rich, valuable thing you can experience. Just stopping and looking at the light on the leaves and just stopping to like look at, someone that you love and like actually look them in the eyes and like
Mhm.
really share that moment. That's all we have. you know? That's all that
So
matters.
beautiful. I love that. Spoken like a true Taurus. Your words of wisdom. I loved every bit of it. This has been such a fun convo. Thank you so much for coming on. This will
Thank
definitely
you.
be the first of many, but everyone click the link in the show notes. You can just peruse this beautiful website. I love everything about it. Your work is
Thank
just
you.
so beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
honestly, like, I don't know much about art, but I do know you should charge more because it's beautiful. And I know you're going to say something like it's appropriately priced for whatever, but it's
Well, no, it's
stunning and
it's
it's
all like
beautiful.
just it's all the for prints, and I think it's like all different sizes. But I'm gonna like change all that anyways because I don't
Okay.
want to do prints. Like I just want to sell my originals. Like
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
gosh. Guys, get your hands on her
So
work ASAP. Do not delay. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
thank you. I want to chat with you about starting a podcast myself.
Oh my God, we will. Okay, I'm hitting the stop button right now.
All right. Are you recording?